Good evening, everybody. Tonight is a special meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Public Services Commission. We're holding a special informational meeting tonight to discuss what everybody, I hope, received in the mail. This is a brochure that was mailed out regarding a proposal on the August 2nd primary ballot involving the expansion and improvements at our wastewater treatment plant. So the meeting purpose tonight is to focus solely on this project and the necessity for making improvements at the plant. So we'd like to start the meeting by calling the meeting to order, and we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll now call the roll. Costick, Chairman, I am here. Phil Kennedy's Vice
Here.
Chair. Les Schmidtke is our Secretary, and Les unfortunately could not be here tonight. Linda Stanko,
I'm here.
Lara Zawada, and David Nadeau.
Here.
So we have a quorum, and can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Support. Any additions to the agenda tonight? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Now we're going to start a presentation on the wastewater treatment plant, and we do hope that we have a number of people in the viewing audience out there on cable channel 12 and other networks who can watch this meeting, and hopefully your questions can be answered. So we'll start the meeting. And Derek, Derek's our township manager. You have some slides to put up, or are we going to show a video first?
Correct, yes.
So we have a video that David Nadeau, who's also sits in as he's our township treasurer, and Jim Budney, our supervisor, myself, and Derek Thiel, our manager. We were at the site of our wastewater plant a week ago, and we prepared a brief video. It's not going to win an Academy Award, but it hopefully begins to outline what we're talking about. You can proceed, Derek. Incidentally, while this is coming up, it's being shown on Channel 12 periodically. So here's the video. Welcome. We're at the site of Grosse Ile Township's wastewater treatment plant. We're here to make a public service announcement to inform you, the public, about what's being planned at our plant. My name is Bill Costick. I'm chairman of the DPS Commission, and I'd like to introduce the group.
Hi, I'm Jim Budney, your township supervisor.
Hi, I'm David Nadeau, Township Treasurer and Liaison to the DPS Commission.
And I'm Derek Thiel, the DPS Director and Township Manager. As the Chairman had mentioned, we're here to talk to you today about a millage that is going to be on the August 2nd primary election. That millage is intended to address state-mandated improvements at your wastewater treatment plant. We'd like to talk a little bit today about the projects that are proposed with this millage.
As Derek has mentioned, we are mandated by the state of Michigan to make certain improvements and expand the treatment capability at our wastewater treatment plant. These improvements that are necessary will allow us to conform to the state of Michigan regulations.
The regulations that mandate these improvements are intended to minimize the risk of discharge of partially treated sanitary sewer flows during heavy rain events. These discharges occur directly into the Detroit River and Lake Erie and impact the bodies of water that we all use to provide us with clean drinking water, waters that we boat, swim, and recreate in.
The proposed scope of the work includes a few mandates, but primarily the largest expense we're going to incur has to do with adding a third clarifier. And later in this video, you're going to see pictures of the existing 2 clarifiers that we have. Additional work includes numerous improvements to our pumps, pump systems, and piping throughout the plant.
The total cost of required work at the treatment plant is $10 million and will be financed through the voter requested millage that will be on the August 2nd ballot. The total levy will not exceed 0.95 mils and is scheduled for 20 years. The township has put forth a tremendous amount of effort to minimize the impact of the millage request on Groseal residents' tax bills. Currently, Groseal Township has in excess of 4.5 mils that are included in your tax bills. These millages are associated with the sewer-related capital improvements. Through creative financing, the township has been able to delay the levy of the proposed millage until 2025, when reductions in the 4.5 mil levy are reduced significantly and that will eventually be eliminated. In summary, the proposed 0.95 mils will not contribute to an increase in your tax bill associated with sanitary water improvements.
I want the residents to know that the township does not take the request for millages from the voters lightly and has structured the request for this millage with tax affordability as its primary goal. The best example of that is the fact that we're asking for this millage today that won't be levied until 2025. With this millage request and the reductions in previous sanitary sewer-related work, decreasing at the time the millage is levied, Groseal Township remains as having one of the lowest overall millage rates in the downriver area. In fact, we are the second lowest rate in the surrounding 7 communities, with the only community having a lower rate being Brownstown Township, which, as you all know, has an abundance of commercial and retail property to help them out. We invite the public to the DPS Special Public Information Meeting on Wednesday, July 20th at 6 p.m. in the Township Board at our Row Road offices. The meeting will be televised on cable TV, Comcast Channel 12, and WOW Channel 10.
The purpose of that meeting on July 20th is to allow you, the citizens, taxpayers, and residents of Grosse Hill, to come to the meeting, and I hope many will, and we'll answer all questions. We'll explain the proposal in more detail than this announcement provides, but we'll explain things in more detail and allow you as much time as it takes to answer questions. This is an important issue for Grosse Hill, and our DPS Commission takes this matter very seriously. Also, I'd like to say, the DPS Commission meets the second Tuesday of every month. We'll be meeting next week on July 12th, but we're having a special meeting to explain in detail this wastewater treatment plant proposal. You're all welcome, and I hope several of you will attend our July 20th meeting.
In addition to these meetings, the township will be providing to the residents a flyer via U.S. mail that will indicate and show the information about the improvements that we're going to be doing at the plant with these millage funds. So look for that in your mail here shortly. Any additional information that you would like to receive about the proposed millage, you can contact Township Hall at 734-676-4422 extension 228, or you can reach me via email at Derek, DEREKT@groseal.com.
Thank you for listening, and see you on August 2nd.
Okay, so the brochure that was referenced in the brief presentation is this brochure, which was mailed to every property owner, hopefully every homeowner on Grosse Hill. And so with a mass mailing, it does provide an explanation of what's proposed at the wastewater plant. We're going to review that again tonight in a little more detail. I apologize, in the video, we were sitting in one quiet area at the wastewater treatment plant, and you could still hear noise, and especially when a vehicle went by on West River Road. The plant, for everybody's information, is located near the Free Bridge, just north of the Free Bridge, north of the canal that empties into the Trenton Channel, you can see our wastewater treatment plant structure at that point. So with that, we have a couple of slides that we want to start with. Is that correct, Derek?
That's correct.
The first slide is very important in my mind because the most expensive item that we're going to construct is a new clarifier. And you can see a picture here of the existing clarifier, and there's one behind it. We have two clarifiers. They are 60 foot in diameter, and you'll hear more about them tonight. And they're actually the water depth in the clarifiers. These are final clarifiers, they're called, where the water's going through the plant, sits in these clarifiers for a period of time, and then is discharged and chlorinated before discharge into the Trenton Channel. We're going to build a third clarifier, 60 foot diameter. It's the most expensive item. So Groseal Township, I'm going to repeat a few things, but we want everybody to understand, has been mandated by the state of Michigan. You've got the next slide up. We've been mandated by the state of Michigan to expand the capacity of our wastewater treatment plant and update and replace essential plant operating equipment. These improvements are required to minimize risks of storm-related sanitary sewer overflows into the Trenton Channel. When we have a large, heavy rainfall or large precipitation event like a major snow thaw, the volume at the plant will double and triple. And so this poses a problem at times. So we're required to add on the holding capacity and treatment capacity at the plant. So with that, I think that Derek has some further comments.
Yeah, so how we got to this point, the township had been cited back in 2010 and moving forward from 2010 with regards to discharges into the Detroit River. And those discharges were attributed to, as the chairman had mentioned, an influx of rainwater or groundwater or sanitary water just from homes into the wastewater treatment plant. Those discharges are not permitted. They're not legal discharges. And the state came to the township and said, you have to do something to, keep these from happening, these illicit discharges from happening. So the township entered into an agreement with the state of Michigan called an administrative consent order that basically was a negotiated settlement with the state to implement activities or actions to resolve these illicit discharges. And those activities those actions are basically increasing the capacity of the plant. So that we basically agreed to increase the capacity of what the plant can handle, what the plant can treat. So that administrative consent order was entered into in 2017. And the benefit to an administrative consent order is the township can negotiate various terms and conditions in that administrative consent order to try to make those improvements fit into our overall budget, our schedule, overall financing that the township has available to it. So the township was able to negotiate within that administrative consent order to have these improvements, this increased capacity, the construction completed in October of 2025. The township knew that it had some millages that were coming off the books that were associated with previous sewer treatment improvements in 2025. So they tried to, and they were successful in the negotiation of the administrative consent order to delay the completion of these improvements until that date and time when those other millages were coming off. So that was really proper planning and correct planning and successful planning by previous township administrators and boards to try to make sure that end point for the construction completion jived with the other millages that we had coming off the books. So that's the history of kind of how we got here and the reasons why we have to do what we're being asked to do.
Later on in this presentation, you're going to hear from our treasurer and look at a chart of what was just explained to you, but I'll say it a little more clearly again. We've actually negotiated a delay. When I say we, the prior township administration over the last few years, prior township officials, elected officials, actually negotiated delay in implementation, knowing that we had on the books 4+ mills of sewer debt stemming from back in the year 2000, 2001. And so when that debt is being drawn down, we would incur this new debt. So from a net tax increase standpoint, that would be deferred. That's our point. And this will be explained a little later. So I just want to explain again, what is the scope of work? So the scope includes the addition of a new third 60-foot final clarifier. You just saw a picture of it, to increase capacity and holding capacity and treatment during wet weather conditions. That's when our flow is at a extreme level. The installation of new higher capacity, what we call intermediate pumps, replacing 46-year-old pumps that actually remove the sewage from our intake and basements below ground into our treatment facilities. These pumps are extremely expensive, and they're 46 years old. Third, additions and modifications to the existing sludge pumps and chlorine contact equipment, reconfiguration of treatment plant air circulation and HVAC equipment to improve the elimination of corrosive gases. So many of the structures are indoors. The preliminary or primary intake wells, the primary intake clarifiers that are in basements, I'm calling them basements, they're some 20 to 40 feet below ground, and huge areas, and treatment buildings, and they have a very corrosive atmosphere with gases in the rooms. So new HVAC and air circulation equipment is very important. And the installation of new effluent meter and chamber. And finally, the rehabilitation of several sanitary sewer manholes, sewer lines, and miscellaneous site improvements at the site. Also, additional work includes the installation of new pumps, piping, and some treatment equipment. So that's what's included.
So we had talked about the mandate from the state to, basically eliminate or severely reduce any kind of discharges from the plant of untreated or partially treated wastewater. So that we understand that this is a mandate, and we have to increase the capacity to serve that mandate, to comply with that mandate. But at the end of the day, the state's requirements are based on the fact that these illicit discharges or these improper discharges are intended. By eliminating them, it's intended to help out the environment, right? And that's really our goal as well. So the additional benefits of this compliance is it helps to minimize these discharges and eventually, help to clean up the river. These discharges occur directly into the Detroit River. The Detroit River surrounds Grosse Ile. Those discharges are not something that we want to do, even though they aren't permitted. It's not something that the township should be doing. And eliminating them helps to, ensure the cleanliness of the Detroit River, Lake Erie, and the body of water that surrounds us all here. So just from a real basic environmental standpoint, this makes a lot of sense. And, that's where the state statutes, the state rules are grounded in clean water. So as far as how we're going to finance this project, as the chairman had mentioned earlier, the project is slated and engineered, and it is estimated at a $10 million expenditure for the scope of work that's been stipulated. That $10 million expenditure will be financed through what has been proposed here, which is the 0.95 mil levy. That's before the electorate on August 2nd. The 0.95 levy is actually a fixed millage. So on a traditional unlimited tax bond, you can have some fluctuation in your millage levy. In this case here, it is a fixed 0.95 mils, so it can't go above 0.95 mils. So so I wanted to make sure that that was clear. It is scheduled for 20 years, which is not uncommon for a capital improvement of this size. Normally you don't bond for longevity of improvements beyond the bond length, but these improvements are long-term improvements. These are 50, 60, 70-year improvements, so the 20-year bond is a very common bond when you're dealing with an improvement of this magnitude and of this longevity. The chairman had mentioned earlier, we did put a tremendous amount of thought into how we were going to organize this millage, when it was going to be levied, how much it was going to be levied for, how, according to the ACO and how that was negotiated, how that flows into previous millages that we had for sewer improvements, and when they came online and when those are going offline. So right now we have about 4.5 mills that are on your current tax bill that are associated with sewer improvements. As the chart will show on the next slide, we are going to delay the levy in order to ensure that the amount that you're being taxed for sewer improvements is not a net increase above and beyond that 4.5 mils that you're currently paying. So the next slide kind of shows that and was included in your mailer. In 2020, there were 5.1 mils, and in 2021, 5.1 mils that are attributed to sewer improvements that were conducted from right around the year 2000 up until now. Those millages have already started falling off slightly. We're down to 4.5 currently, 4.2 next year, and 4.2 the following year in 2024. We have delayed the levy of this millage until 2025, so that you see the net amount for sewer improvements of millages that will be on your tax bill do not exceed what you have become accustomed to paying in your tax bill. You're at 4.5 now. When this millage is levied, you're going to actually be below that. And as those millages, the previous millages from 2020 or 2000, year 2000, start falling off even more, you'll see additional reductions in that sewer amount, all the way to the point where that 0.95 will be the only one that will be on your tax bill moving forward, based upon this current proposal. So you'll see that overall your millage levy for sewer improvements will go down moving forward in 2023 and into the future. So want to be very clear about how that all works and how that's been designed to ensure the most minimal impact to the residents for these improvements. I have received a number of questions as to why we're asking for this millage in 2022 but not levying to 2025. So I wanted to address that, and actually I think the treasurer is probably best to address that. So the next slide addresses the reasons why.
Thanks, Derek. As Derek mentioned, the work on the sewer treatment plant needs to be completed, must be completed by October of 2025. And this is roughly 20 to 24 month project. And the township will be going out for a bond in 2023 because the money will be required in order to begin the construction project next year in fall of 23. In order to secure the bond, we have to show the bonding agency that we have the revenue stream to meet the bond or the required bond payments. And in order to do that, we have to have the bond in place, or have to have the millage in place in 2022 in order to secure the necessary funding in 2023. We have to show the cash flow that will allow the work to start in 2023. In 2023 and 2024, the township will use savings account money to make the necessary loan payments or bond payments for those first 2 years, and then the millage will be levied in 2025. And the millage will then be used to continue to make the necessary payments towards the principal and interest on the bond. As you've already heard, by the time 2025 rolls around, the total sewer millage, and you can see it in the graph, is just a shade over 3 mils, which is down from the 4.5 that you're currently at, and then continues to fall from that point. But it's all contingent on being able to secure the bond and show the revenue stream that will allow us to make the necessary bond payments. And top of mind when we came up with this was to, at least in the longer run, and even in the short run, very little impact on taxpayers and the taxes that show up on your tax bill, and they will continue to decrease from that point forward.
Is that a summary of our presentation so far?
Yep, the last slide is just the millage language, the millage request language that is on the August 2nd ballot. So if there are any questions, be more than happy to take those questions.
And I would indicate, for those of you that did receive this in the mail, that the actual language that will appear, there's a summary of it on the August primary bond issue language. So with that, I think you've had an explanation. We're certainly open to any questions that you may have. We have a member in the audience. Would you please come up and just state your name, sir? Thank you.
The biggest question I have is the funding of this, the $10 million. Is that based on bids you guys took out or estimates that you guys drew up to come up with the cost of the
Yes,
project?
Well, actually, a couple of, there were three engineering firms. Our primary engineering firm is Raines Engineering out of Riverview, but we hired sub-consultants who are experts in sewage treatment plants. They're very complex entities. So over the past, I guess, 2 years, they've been doing the design work and working with the state. Now, in developing the plans, the state of Michigan is, it used to be the Department of Environmental Quality, but they're deeply involved in approving everything that we've already prepared, including the cost estimates. So the answer is they were engineered. The cost estimates were developed by our township engineer with sub-consultants who are experts in sewage treatment plants.
For all those plans, is the state picking that up, or does the township have to pay for all
Oh,
that?
we're picking it up. That's the way the state operates. They just review what you've got to do, and it's your cost. It's on you.
An unfunded mandate actually means unfunded mandate.
Right, so we're not getting any state or federal money either to help pay for any of this stuff?
The township has applied for some grants to try to, assist with the cost, overall cost of the construction. So we are attempting to, look at other funding options. If there are other funding options that are obtained, that millage rate could be reduced to be able to only fund the portion that we need. But, those aren't guaranteed, and they're very competitive. We will do our best to try to obtain those, but that has been thought of, and we have been moving forward with that. To the chairman's point, just to elaborate a little bit on that engineering, the engineering actually for the project, because it is a mandated project, we have to do it. We don't have a choice. That engineering already has actually been completed, that design work. So the estimates that we have from the engineers are based actually on a design, not just a concept. And that design has been reviewed across its entire development by the state to ensure that, they understand and they have the faith that that design will solve the problems that we have of capacity issues.
Now, is this project, is it actually below the $10 million estimate, or is there fluff in there?
There is contingency costs because
Right.
And you can see what's happening in today's world. Costs are going up everywhere. So
Right.
normally the engineers have provided a 10% contingency
All right.
and everything, and we can only hope that that's enough. But I believe it will be. We've had several meetings on this. I think does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's answered all my questions.
Well, that's a very good question you asked. And I would say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, over the last couple of years when this engineering was being done, we paid for a lot of it already.
Yes, we did. We've paid in excess of $500,000 just in engineering costs alone over the past 2.5 years.
Right.
So that when the bonds are sold, we actually need, once the bonds are sold next year in 2023, it's going to take almost 2 years for construction, particularly the clarifier. And that's just real complex mechanical engineering work. And we need money to pay monthly to the contractor. So we've saved some money in our wastewater treatment plant budget, knowing that we're going to fund those operations, those payments during construction. But in the end, we'll have the money when we sell the bonds to begin to make the payments out of the bond issue.
All right, thanks.
The other thing considered also is interest rates. You know, those have changed a little bit since, you know, throughout the process of looking at these improvements. And we have made contingencies for that as well, depending upon what happens with those. So,
Right.
yep, we've done our best to try to think ahead as far as, you know, proper financial planning on this, and I think we're in a pretty good position, so.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to ask our commission, the DPS commission, we meet the second Tuesday of every month, and people are welcome to attend, and many do over the years. But as a commission, we've been to the wastewater plant many, many times, all of us, and including our new member, Linda Stankel. And I'd like to ask if anybody has a comment they'd like to make that hasn't spoken already. We'll start with Laura.
Dealing with ACOs, they're mandated and something that has to be done. And to increase the capacity, I think I'm with that.
I know you've been at the plant many a time, so
Yeah.
thank you. Phil?
Nothing that hadn't been already said, other than I would urge the citizens to vote. That's your voice, is your vote, and I would encourage everybody to vote.
And Linda Stanko.
Well, I agree with him completely. But also, I have a question. Can I ask a question? If it is mandated and it has to be completed by October of 2025, what happens if it doesn't pass? Do you start from scratch? Or?
The work has to be done. The township would
Right.
have to review other funding options, you know, to be able to get the work done. I think what we've tried to do here is take the time that we had through the ACO, that the negotiation allowed us to have the time to try to develop a plan that we felt was the least impactful, that, considered all the township finances, when we looked at how this fit in. So once again, as we had mentioned in the presentation, we've given a tremendous amount of thought to trying to do this in a way that took everything into consideration. And we really feel that this is the best option available. We would have to review other options that, not to say we haven't reviewed other options, because when you take a look at whether this is the best, in our opinion, we've reviewed those, but, we would look at other options, yes.
Well, I think it's definitely worth voting yes on.
Okay, with that, most important thing is that you consider this proposal and that you actually go out and vote. It's only a primary election, I know, but and usually we have a lower voter turnout during primaries. But this issue, and there's a couple other issues on the ballot that are very important, so we hope that we'll have a good voter turnout. And if you, Derek gave a phone number to call if there are any questions, and I'll just recite it again. It's 734-676-4422. Extension 228 is to the manager, and he's going to be happy to talk to anybody that has another question. And so with that, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak and ask a question? And if not, we'll adjourn the meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Support.
There aren't any objections. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for watching.